I started on 50,000 IUs for 10 days. Well, people are aghast at that. Oh, that's, too many. Think, oh, that's 50,000's a lot. But then, like me, COVID respiratory system cleared up within a week. Now, obviously, I brought me things down to about 25,000 IUs. I kept taking that.
Steve, how did you find carnivore?
Well, my ill health journey started a long time ago when I was in my late 20s. I developed, well, actually, I give a pint of blood. We used to have a blood donation service at work. I give a pint of blood. I was pretty healthy. I was training for a half marathon. So I was pretty fit in my late 20s. And then the next day, I'd developed flu symptoms like aching. All of them, like my body was aching. And that's I just, thought, oh, that's just something that's happened. Maybe my immune system was a bit low, and I'll get over it. But about a week, 10 days or more, it was still there, this flu symptom. So obviously I went to see my GP, and he just said, oh, it's like a post-viral syndrome. It'll go as quick as it came, sort of thing. So anyway, so obviously I just went away. Then other symptoms sort of developed, like my glands were swollen, feeling more tired, headachy, back of my eyes, headachy, seemed to get worse. So obviously I went back, and he just sort of says, just like have to take it easy, rest as much as you can. So I sort of went away again, tried that advice, but obviously I was still working at the time. We've got mortgage to pay, and so I carried on best I could, trying to rest up when I could. But nothing seemed to do, the rest or sleep didn't work at all. I was just the same. So I went back. He tried CBT and different things later. This was further down the line. But eventually I tried things myself. I tried to help myself. Obviously went down different things, researching what you could back then, but obviously wasn't much internet around, and back in the late 80s. So I had a blood test. I remember that, having a blood test, and it measured your antibodies, and it found that I was allergic or had a reaction to lactose, milk, and gluten. So I thought, oh, I'll start buying gluten-free products, soya milk and things like this, try a different approach to my diet, try to do things more healthy, but nothing seemed to work really. Time evolved and passed on. I got a little bit better, but it's still there, it was still like not helpful doing this diet, or it didn't work. I think I gave up in the end. I mean, gluten-free products don't taste very nice as it is, And soya milk, oh, what did I go on that for?
Kind of
So
like out of the frying pan into the fire with soy milk, right?
that's right, yeah, when you learn what I know now, yes. So eventually I went back to the doctor. So he says, you need a boost. So he put me on antidepressants. So I was started me off on Prozac, I think. So I tried that, and then a few months or so, 6 months went by. I went back, and eventually put me on something else. I tried that. So I sort of half give up with, just thought, this is my life now. I've got to try and do best I can, just try and live with it. I still carried on with the antidepressants.
And sorry,
So
just to jump in for a second. So what started as something that felt like flu symptoms when you were training for a marathon has now got to the stage where a doctor is prescribing antidepressants for you?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that were further down the line, 6 months or a year or more. Well, I think it was like glandular fever, like that type thing, and I think my immune system wasn't strong enough to cope with it. So it's like post-viral syndrome, or it was called back then post-viral syndrome, or ME. It was called like the yuppie flu, saying it was all in the mind and all this, but I think that's just one of the symptoms that you do get depressed. Well, I did sort of get depressed because of the way I felt. You just start
Yeah,
to sort of
if you're feeling sick all the time, you're gonna start to feel depressed, right?
that's right, yeah, when you was pretty active and, pretty fit. Uh, so I tried all sorts of things, vitamins, different sort of things I could try. But it did ease off, but it took a long time, like a few years before the glands went down. But I was still left with tiredness, fatigue. So it was difficult, really, difficult part of my life, that in the 90s. Obviously, I tried, like I said, cleaning up my diet, tried best I could, but nothing seemed to work. Eventually, supposedly fast forward, I was still managed to function. I was still going to work. It was like a push. It was hard at times getting up. I think another thing didn't help when I was on. I got a job and I was on shift work, so I was on like 3 shifts in that period. So I think that definitely didn't help. It was like being on having permanent jet lag, really. So just rest didn't work, sleep didn't work. It was just it were confusing, really. Sometimes you thought you'd had a good night's sleep, but it was still tired next day. Of course, it played sort of not very good for my relationships, trying to get through this. Um, so it was a difficult time. So fast forward to like 2016, early 2016. I was reading, like, read a few books, like Mark Sisson's one, The Primal Blueprint, which is another low carb approach and other things. He's got a few different things going on in that book. I think I read a Tim Noakes one, Professor Tim Noakes, The Real Meal Revolution, I think it was called. So I decided to go for it. Early 2016, the low carb, more, it was a keto approach, keto, primal, paleo. I think more or less the same. Just I think dairy is it's just the dairy that's different, or whatever. You can have dairy and primal or whatever. So I tried it, and I noticed more or less within the first week, my brain just sort of lit up. It was like a light bulb moment. It got so clear, like the brain fog just cleared. I couldn't believe it at the time. and sort of my energy got a lot better. I felt energized. Obviously, I think the ketones kicked in. Um, so I thought I'll carry on with this, because sometimes in the past you thought, oh, I've tried this and it worked for a day. So I think it worked for a day, and then it come back, the misery. And so I just carried on with it, and no, I felt the same. I still was having energized, plenty of energy, a lot better. So obviously I kept it going. Sort of got more into researching the keto way and on the bulletproof coffees on the morning, then intermittent fasting a bit. I'd sort of like do the 10, 18, 6, fasting 18 hours or 16 hours, missing breakfast, but having like a bulletproof coffee. So I was on like 1, 2 meals a day, like low carb. Obviously, I still had a bit of a social life, so I sort of went on from off the beer to wine, like red wine, try to keep it low carb. But that, it was only a few nights a week, if that. So I carried this on for a few years, the keto, and then I was like 60. I was 60 after a couple of years. When was I 60? 3 years ago, and I decided I needed to up my protein, because they were talking about, oh, you have to retain your muscle mass as you get older. It's good for you. So I was sort of seeing the influence on YouTube. Sean Baker, saw his podcast on Joe Rogan. I think Anthony Chaffee turned up about that time 2, 3 years ago. Bart K, I started watching his channels. So obviously it was more carnivore approach. So yeah, I started watching Anthony Chaffee. So I decided to start eating more meat, red meat, up my protein. And then they were saying, oh, you need to like have fat with it. So I was like started eating ribeyes. I managed to find a local butcher with a lot of meat, loads of ribeyes, minced beef or ground beef, eating that. And then I sort of cut back on these like salads. And I used to eat quite a lot of nuts thinking they were good for me. They were good for me, but now they're causing like gut issues, really, upsetting my stomach. So I cut all these seeds and nuts out as well. Yeah, it was basically carnivore, and I'm eating a lot of eggs as well, maybe 6 eggs a day. I'd mix that up with my ground beef. So every day for the last 2 years, I've been eating more or less beef every day. At least one of my meals. I'm on like 2 meals a day. I started having my breakfast sort of 9 o'clock I found that were better for me. Because I'd get sort of a bit hyper on the keto. I was getting a bit hyper too much. I think maybe it was a cortisol imbalance, something like that. So I started eating earlier, was better for me. And then when I was getting hungry, say 3, 4 o'clock, I'd have my second meal. I do eat, I like pork, especially belly pork with all that lovely fat. People would have a heart attack if they saw what I ate. Uh,
They'd have a heart
so,
attack thinking you're going to have a heart attack.
yeah, that's it. So, and then I eat sardines. I had tin sardines to get a bit of fish in there. I treat myself sometimes if I have dark chocolate. now and then, just a couple of squares with a coffee. The coffee I used coconut milk instead of real milk to try and keep me. Well, actually, I don't know if I am still lactose intolerant. It's probably healed me gut as all, eating proper food, real food sort of thing. So I do have cheese sometimes. I like me cheese. So really, that's it. And I've found that I've put on more muscle mass, definitely. So I'm pretty doing good shape, really.
Mm, nice. Well, congratulations that you've got to this point. Um, but that's some journey from, the 80s until now to like completely clear things up. Um, so the brain fog has gone, your energy is much higher. Um, and like there's no depression at all now.
Oh, yeah. After about a few weeks of keto back in 2016, I just ditched all my tablets. Doctors will say, "Oh, you should ease yourself off. You wean your tablets down." But I just threw them in the bin. I thought I ain't taking these anymore. So it didn't seem to make any difference to me, my mood or anything. So I just carried on with my diet. Um, as far as the weight loss, people talk about weight loss a lot, really. But really, I didn't have a lot to lose. Really, I think I was 86 kilograms, um, and I think I went down within a few months to about below 80. Obviously, I was checking myself. I would check my blood pressure went down. It's pretty good. 110/65 all the time now. Perfect, really. I did check my A1C, and that went down to 5.1 on the keto, but I've no measurements to sort of compare it against, if you know what I mean, from before, because I never really took any measurements before I started the keto. So I think my keto, I went down to 78 eventually, 78 kilograms. Um, so I've seen some pictures. I was looking a bit scrawny actually. I think it was a good idea upping it the protein in my diet, to put some muscle on. I have put muscle on by doing that. I train maybe, I like to do like short bits of training, like I have kettlebell and I just do exercise with that. It takes me 15, 20 minutes. I maybe do it twice a week. Um, and I do quite a bit of walking. Um, and I've looked into like sprinting now, doing sprints. Like Dr. Sean O'Mara is big into the sprinting because I believe that he's correct that like the visceral fat is just as bad. The fat on the inside is just as bad as the fat on the outside. Really, what you can't see, because you see a lot of that in where I am in Southeast Asia. You see all the skinny people with like the little pot bellies going on, and when you look at the figures, they're still developing type 2 diabetes. With and that, so the BMI supposedly is okay. They go on the scales. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, the scales are a measure, but I don't think they really matter. Well, they didn't matter to me. Obviously, if you're 300 pounds, you're overweight. You'd like to get your weight down, but I don't believe that it really helps with you. It'll help with your health a little bit, but it ain't getting to the root cause, which is like your pre-diabetes, your insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, they call it now. So I think the metabolic syndrome is so important, like getting, I think there's 5 markers in there. I don't know whether you know, Dave, the waist circumference, the blood pressure, triglyceride measurement, your lipids, obviously your blood sugar, and then the HDL, supposedly the good cholesterol. You know, I've seen your interview with Malcolm Kendrick. He's brilliant, that fella. Everyone should go and watch that one. Yeah, about the LDL.
Yeah,
So
it's he's a very smart guy.
yeah, and no one, nobody's listening really, are they? They just don't want to know. Like, I aren't saying doctors are bad or anything. It's just the system. It's the system that they're in. All the all they do is it's just a pill for every ill thing, isn't it? You go in there and you go out with a prescription. No mention of diet, really. Diet and exercise. Well, diet's the main thing, I think. There's no mention of that. There's a prescription treating the symptoms. They aren't getting to the root cause, which is
In,
mainly.
in your experience, has that changed over time? Like when you were younger, did were doctors more interested in kind of finding out what was wrong and trying to propose something that may not be medication?
No, I don't think so. No. So when I
So
used.
pretty sad system, right?
It's the same. Yes, I think it's the same. I think it's probably it has got worse, maybe a little bit. But every time I went to, because when I was a kid, I was suffering from sore throats, and back then, it was always antibiotics. You'd walk out with an antibiotic, course of antibiotics, even back then. So I don't think it's changed a lot. Well, I think it's got worse. 'Cause I've done research in like the metabolic syndrome, the 5 health markers. It's they did a big study like 2009 to 2016 in US, 27 million people, and 89% of them are ill. They've got metabolic syndrome, which is insulin resistance, or mainly a glucose blood sugar problem because they're eating too many carbs, causing this ill health, the weight gain, all these problems. And I looked, they have a chart for men and women, and if you pass all the 5 health markers, you're in a very small minority, like 11%, 10% of the population. Um, anyway, I checked, and there's only 2.1% of people over 60 that pass all 5 metabolic health markers, which I'm pretty happy about, as I pass all 5, I think, pretty optimally. So I'm happy about that. But it's difficult to put it across and tell people and friends, this is the way to go. But it's like they're set in the ways. They're in that. They can't. I think they'll find it difficult to give up the beer and the bread.
Yeah. So I mean, have family said anything to you about it, or close friends like they want to give it a try, or wow, your results have been so good, Steve. What are you doing?
Yeah, I managed to get a close friend to try it a couple of years ago, more keto, not carnivore. Um, he was similar age to me, a bit older, and he was putting on weight, and so he tried it, and but he in a few months he like he dropped 20 pounds, I think, in 2 or 3 months. His blood pressure, which had always been pretty high, that normalised. I think all his other health markers are okay. And he did it by still, because he still likes to drink. So what he did, good on him, he like says, oh, I'll choose a low carb drink, like he went on to the gin and tonic gins. Obviously the tonic was low, no carbs. So I know he liked to drink, and he drank probably every night, G and T's, but it still worked because it was low carb. It still he still lost a lot of weight. I think he's still doing it to a degree, but usually when he goes on holiday, he likes to have a good time, but when he gets back home, he's straight back on it again. So he's like got that tool like in his toolbox to I'm back on it. So I think he's pretty steady away with it. He
Yeah,
knows what.
that reminds me of how I was in the past. Like I'd do keto, I do really well, I'd fall off the wagon, but then I always knew that was there, when I was ready to go back to it, and so I'd go back, start it again, feel good, fall off the wagon, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have noticed the difference between keto and carnivore since I've done the my protein and my fats. I think my mood has stabilised a lot. I feel more calmer. Um, I think my gut issues, they've settled down. No more bloating, flatulence. I've lost the ability to clear a room now. Um, but I suppose all my mates would be happy about that. But yeah, I noticed though, sometimes I do eat fruit. It's usually local fruit. I don't go out on my way to buy it. I don't buy it in supermarkets, just like local fruits. I notice when I have that, it gives me more stomach upset. Just a bit of fruit. I think my body's just used to the carnivore now, and these little things upset it.
So so is this kind of for you, is this kind of all forever now?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I won't be changing. No way. I feel best that I've felt. Probably. Definitely back from then when I was in them dark places. I feel like that was supposedly the prime of my life in my 30s. I feel robbed about that, but I think I'm in the prime of my life now. In my 60s, I feel better than ever. I'm able to do anything sports wise. Like I say, I'm sprinting, putting muscle on, really, looking pretty good, feeling good. There's no way I'd go back. Obviously, I still go out and I have a few glasses of wine now and then, but it doesn't seem to bother me that much. I can recover. I think my body's well equipped to deal with anything, really. So it's working as it should. So,
So for someone watching who's thinking about getting started, um, how would you recommend they get started with carnivore to kind of maximize their chance of success?
um, first, I'd say just forget about everything you've heard in the past about diet, because it's all wrong. You've been fed a load of pack of lies, really. Because when you realise, like mainstream media, everything is in bed with big pharma and big food. It's just to promote their food. telling to eat this, try this, like the high carb. It's been a disaster for everyone, really. So I'd tell them to forget everything about the diet, what they've heard, start afresh. Then I'd say, get a big bin liner and empty all your cupboards of all your packaged foods, anything with a barcode, your packages, get them out, because the temptation's still there. I know myself, like I'm tempted. If I've got dark chocolate in fridge, I'm tempted to go and have some. I realise there's all these temptations. So I think you've got to get them out of your, cupboards and fridges and just empty all the crap, really, which is what it is. It's just food-like substances. And then just think, even just going back to eating real food at the start, I think, like a slow progression. Just vegetables mainly, and meat and vegetables, basic. And then even the fruit can be a problem for some. If you're metabolically unhealthy, it's going to cause you problems still. It's processed similar to alcohol, fructose. It goes to your liver process. It's toxic. And I think you've got to look at certain YouTube channels, really. Ken Berry's one at best. He just takes you back to the basics. After, say, a few weeks of like vegetables, then easing off, like keto, really, that is, and then start on like what he says, beef, butter, bacon and eggs. Make it simple, that's it. Just eat that till you're full, and then, of course, when you're feeling hungry again, you just eat again, the same. And you find that you get more you're satiated, your hunger disappears. It doesn't take long. And the cravings seem to go as well for sugar. Yeah, he's excellent, is Ken Berry, and I think he has a question and answers thing on a Monday night, and you can ask questions if you join his channel. And I'd read all the comments as well to see how it's working for people. So that's sort of the approach I'd go.
Very nice. Good advice. And Steve, do you have a YouTube or an Instagram or anything if people want to reach out to you?
I've got the Baron Von 609. That's like my Instagram, YouTube. I think I joined X or whatever it is, but I haven't really done anything on that. So that's it, really. But really, I'm just I watch all the influencers really most days. Make a few comments, try and help people. I just wondered if I could touch on something else that I think is important as well. Back in last November, I developed that viral thing, like whatever they call it. So I had a pretty hard time of it. It wasn't pleasant. I wouldn't have said pleasant. I looked into it more, and then I was researching. They were saying that people with low vitamin D are usually hospitalised. Obviously, people metabolically unhealthy are hospitalised with it. So I looked more into vitamin D, and I dropped on a guy called Dr. Joel Gould. Gould is a dentist, and he has a site, the Modern Hunter Gatherers. He talks about vitamin D a lot, but it turns out vitamin D is a hormone. A lot of people don't know it's a hormone, and it's obviously you get it through your your food, which is mainly animal foods. There's not a lot of D in plant foods. It's all animal foods. And obviously the sun. So you synthesize it through your skin, and it's actually cholesterol that brings it into your system, like your liver, and it makes the D for you. And they were finding that all the people with low D were in hospital, getting hospitalized. And it turns out really it's like a pandemic of low vitamin D. People don't realize how important D is. So I researched it more with watching his videos. He has a few videos, not that many, Joel Gould. And when he was talking about his experience from when he was younger, and he got Crohn's disease, and then he found out he had sleep apnea. He found out he had his D checked, and his D was like very insufficient, very low. And he started obviously having taking the vitamins and K2 and magnesium together. You're meant to take all three really to help synthesize it in your body. And it improved. His Crohn's disease went away, his sleep apnea went away when he got up to a certain level, like 60 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. Whereas a lot of people are in the 30s, 20s, 30s. So then it seemed to correlate with my problems when I was younger. I believe that the thing I got was like an autoimmune thing. Obviously, it was to do with my immune system. It was autoimmune. And they find that most of the autoimmune conditions, they have low vitamin D, very low. Like, especially people with MS, things like this. Well, it's all your autoimmunes, it's partly due to low D. They reckon people with cancer, all them have got low vitamin D. Not that that's the cause, but when they measure them, they're all low because vitamin D does like a few things. It regulates your immune system. It's good for your immune system to fight things. It's good for like the microbiome, your gut, where a lot of your neurotransmitters are made as well. Yeah. So, as well as sleep, they reckon it helps with sleep because it's getting your neurotransmitters in balance. You get into a deep sleep, which is how you can repair. So anyway, I thought I'll try a loading dose. Well, the normal dose before was about 800 IUs a day. That was just to stop you getting rickets. So I started on 50,000 IUs for 10 days. Well, people that are gassed at that, oh, that's, too many. Think, oh, that's 50,000's a lot. But then, like my COVID respiratory system cleared up within a week. Now, obviously, I brought me things down to about 25,000 IUs. I kept taking that for another month or two to try and get my D level up. Because before this, I had tested my D level just after I had this, well, during the COVID episode, I tested my D and it was down at 31, which was 1 point above insufficient. So it ranges from 0 to 100, they say. So anything below 30 is insufficient. It's not enough. You need to get it 60 to 80 or even more, they say. Like there's Judson Somerville, Dr. Judson Somerville. He's started giving his patients vitamin D. He's reckoned the optimal dose is 35,000 units a day. And he started giving his patient that, and he found a year later he didn't have many patients coming into his surgery, as many, no. So vitamin D, you have to make sure you get them up because it's vital, it's a hormone. And they reckon if you go out in the sun, like 30 minutes, especially near the equator, you can make 25,000 units a day or in an hour. So I think it's just scaremongering again by doctors. Myself, they never talk about vitamin D. They've like quashed it down, but I think it's another vital thing. It's vital. I'd advise anyone to get theirs checked because there's a lot of people out there very low, especially if you're dark skinned. You can't synthesize it well, and then people with autoimmune. I think that's one of the causes. Having a low D, and it allows like these things to get manifest. Your immune system's low, and it's getting in there, causing problems.
Yeah. It's a very, very important topic to think about because it hasn't been talked about enough up until the last few years when COVID has been prevalent. That's the only time doctors have started talking about it at all, right?
Yeah, well, it was because of not the GPs we're talking about. It was the other doctors who know about it and care, wanted to let everyone know, and then they got saying there were conspiracy theories or whatever. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
and so, by my own experience in the past, I've always had trouble with my sinusitis. Um, like my teeth are a bit crooked at the bottom. I had my wisdom teeth out when I was about 20. So always had problems. And when he mentioned it, these are the things of what low vitamin D is. So I'm wondering, I'm more or less 100% sure I was low D sort of most of my life. And these things are so important, especially when you're growing up, to get enough D. And it isn't as though I was not outside all the time. I loved my football, cricket, always outside playing. Obviously, you don't get your D in winter as much in UK, but I was always an outside person. So you obviously think you don't even know about it then, back then, nobody, but I think it's that important that you need to be looking at that there's all these different illnesses with the kids now, autism, ADHD, all these things as well are going on. I think D is, very important. So I think most people or everyone should really get tested just to know your level. And then some people need a small dose, say 5,000 IUs a day. Some people with autoimmune need a lot more because they don't synthesize it as well. They're doing, I stumbled on, there's a Brazilian doctor, I think it's Combre protocol, and he treats MS patients in Brazil, and he is like giving them 80,000 units a day. And he's getting great results. Like I know you've had people on with MS on here talking about their journey. Yeah, carnivore does help. It probably does raise your D a bit because you're eating animal food. But I think getting the D measured, they could even make even better the improvements. So that's
Yeah.
my take on D.
Nice. Um, well, Steve, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's been nice. Good to talk to you, Dave. Yeah, I love your channel. Keep doing what you're doing.